I think there's a positive in all of this. So Jesus tears down the walls. But here, practically speaking, the world is still very divided during that time. And so you have Europeans over here, and as centuries go on and so on, you end up with generally Christians in Europe and in certain areas of Africa, and you end up with Muslims in certain areas of Africa, and all the way out to through the Middle East and out to Afghanistan and so on, northern India. You have Hindus down in India and in what's now Pakistan and so on. You have different groups in different parts, and for a long, long time, people are staying in areas where most people around them are just like them. And it's now that everyone, especially in places like the United States, everything's getting mixed up, and you're going to run into some problems, right? It's not going to go smoothly when we're all living together now. And so it could be where you actually have people from very different perspectives and so on living in the same area, but also through the internet. Now you interact with people from around the world. And so when we see, people, Kanye having a problem with Jews in the entertainment industry or something like that, or Muslims having problems with the idea that we're allowed to criticize their prophet and so on because we're allowed to do that over here. You have all these cultural differences and so on, and there's going to be quite a bit of tension as people sort of get used to each other. And so we're still kind of in the middle of all that happening. In other words, we're still trying to learn to get along with all these different groups.
Yeah, and again, Christians got to be the light, man. We really do, because we talk about, you mentioned the internet, like the Buffalo shooter. Now, this is a case of clearly anti-black hatred, but that the mass shooter there in Buffalo that went into the supermarket specifically to target black folks, he had to drive really far away from his own residence in New York to go into Buffalo and just started shooting people, just murdered them in cold blood. I read his manifesto, this long, I think almost 200, way over 100 pages. I forget how many pages it was now. Manifesto. I read it actually more than once. It was not fun, but the PDF was accessible. I did a couple shows on this, and he did this thing where he asked himself questions. People are going to want to know, so he would interview himself. And one of the things is he said towards the beginning of the document, if I'm not mistaken, was I didn't pick this up from conversations with real life flesh and blood people. All this that I got, these ideas, which was it's wild, because in the document he says he's going to go target black folks. He specifically says he went there when it's the busiest time, least likely to have security, all kinds of stuff. Like, he was very methodical about his wickedness. But he said, because black folks are closer and I can kind of get to them. This is literally what the document said. But really, Jews are the main problem, but I can't get to them in the same way, but I can go kill some black folks. So I'll do that. It's basically the next best thing is killing Jews, because the document itself was actually more anti-Semitic probably than anti-black, although the murders were, they affected only black folks, that he went after and killed. But in it, he says, I didn't talk to any flesh and blood people. This was all from stuff on the internet. That's what he said. And some people's like, well, we got to do this on the internet and do that and eliminate. I say, I don't know about all that controlling stuff, but Christians should work to have platforms and places where we can speak the truth out and get it out there in hopefully an attractive, clever, winsome way. And that's why I love, what you do and what John does. And there's more and more content creators. I saw Miss Titus too earlier, the work she does, people really doing this. And I think it's a beautiful thing. That's the solution, is not, clamp this down to do this. It's, hey, Christians, let's get out there. Let's show the voice of Christ, be salt and light in this culture, because it's true what's happened on the internet. And I bet you Kanye got a lot of the stuff he got. He talks about personal involvement, but some of the stuff he's saying clearly comes from Hebrew Israelite internet activity. That some of the stuff he said. Same thing with Kyrie. He specifically talked tweeted this documentary that was specifically from a guy who's pretty big on the internet circles. You know, people are picking this up from the internet, and that's why it's important what we do online. So I say all that to say this: people, support what David does, support what I do. Our main goal isn't to stand against anti-Semitism per se, but as ministers of the gospel, that is something that we will also do, as we recognize Imago Dei, and as we recognize the Hebraic roots of the Christian faith, if you want to put it that way. We recognize that reality. And so anti-Semitism, and when it really is anti-Semitism is something that we hate and stand against, and we are willing to be, you know, allies, not compromising the gospel, not going to compromise the gospel, but we are about that. And so, guys, the content that we put online is important. So I appreciate people watching, hitting thumbs up, sharing this video, and supporting what people like us do on Patreon. Straight up, because there's got to be a counter. There's got to be some light in this darkness, you know?